Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Cheryl, Mike, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
All right. Everybody, today's guest is Sheryle Gillihan. She's the co-owner and CEO of CauseLabs. CauseLabs is Fort Worth's first certified B Corp and public benefit corporation. Since joining in 2010, Sheryle rose from project manager to then CEO. And then in 2018, Sheryle and her husband bought the company that she's now running. Under her leadership, CauseLabs has grown into a purpose-driven digital agency that works with different nonprofits and social enterprises. And she starts every day with an impact-first mindset, which we're reading about and I want to learn more about. Sounds very interesting. Sheryle, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Before we hop, by the way, that's the first thing I saw was like this like it looked like a morning affirmation.
Yeah.
That little paragraph.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but anyway, sorry. Andrew, back to you.
No. I want to learn more about that too. No, I was going to say before we start peppering you with questions, maybe just if you want to share more about yourself or about CauseLabs for the audience.
All right. So I have had a very varied path. I was mentioning to Andrew that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. Didn't know I was an entrepreneur until all of a sudden I had the opportunity to buy the business that I was already working in and loving. And I've done everything from working in food service, working in the military, being a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, and then trying to get back into the workforce when, tech was really prolific. And, thank goodness it kind of rose up into power when, I was kind of in that college age, and I'm pretty tech savvy just because of that timing of things. I never thought I would end up in tech. We didn't dream about jobs in tech, and here I am. And so CauseLabs is a web agency, but I feel like it's always so much more than that. I tell people if your website's just a website, then you're not doing it right. There's a lot of things that it's connected to these days, a lot of things that it powers. And so, yeah, it's almost always some sort of web application or web engagement. And so, yeah, love what we do every day.
I'm sure this would take us completely off the rails, but I know Mike is a super fan of everything AI, and I saw that you do some pretty cool stuff around AI. Maybe you could talk about that. You have like what is it, the Ava AI?
Yes.
What is that?
People say don't name your AI. It creates all of these weird cognitive things. But, mine's an acronym. I think HAL was an acronym too, but, that turned badly. I shouldn't name my AI, but yeah, Artificial Virtual Assistant is what it stands for. Okay. I just wanted to be able to talk to it and be a little bit more like, good morning, Ava. And then she jumps into my routine and gets things started.
What does Ava do?
So on a daily basis, I use it. It's in ChatGPT, and, I've got some routines set up. If I say good morning, she's got this, morning meditation and devotional routine she goes through for me. I'm a woman of faith. And so I kind of start my day off with, good intentions and gratitude and, a little devotional. And then, if I say, what's the news, I've got a routine set up where she looks up the date and then looks at the breaking news for global, US, Texas, and then North Texas, which is where I live. So I found for a long time now, I don't really turn on the TV anymore with streaming services. Right. In the past, we used to just turn on the radio or turn on the news and we would kind of hear what was happening for the day. And with things going digital and everything being kind of streaming and distributed, I find that I don't do that anymore. And so I felt it was important for me to create that routine because I don't even get the newspaper anymore. So I feel disconnected from what's going on in the world. And since our work is so impact driven, I feel like I need to stay attuned to those things.
Yeah.
That is so interesting because there's so many new ways to use obviously AI, but it's like my mother will come over to visit me. She's 78 and they watch one news channel all day. It feels like, and she's like, "Well, where do you get your news?" And I'm like, "Well, barely off of TV, but I like
Yeah.
your idea that it just gives you unbiased, unfiltered. Well, hopefully it's
Without,
unbiased and unfiltered. Do you feel like it's learning because, or do you think it is unbiased
Um,
and unfiltered what it's giving you, or do you feel it's starting to become biased?
so I have put some parameters. I don't know that it follows my parameters in my custom instructions, but I have put some parameters in my instructions to look at certain sources that
mm,
either say that they're unbiased, or there's one that I use that I put in there, and it has actually like, how does the left position this news article? How does the right position this? And how do, those in the middle kind of position it? And so
Interesting.
I think because I provided some sources, I get kind of a more holistic response.
Yeah, good. Got it.
that is good. There's one particular, this is getting way off the rails. There's one particular source I see on Instagram. It's called All Sides Now. It
Oh,
will
that's
show
what it's
you
called.
okay,
All
yeah, it'll show
sides.
you the perspective from all the different, like way left, way right, who's in the middle,
Hmm.
and show you how they're reporting it. It's really interesting to see the different headlines used. It's
Hmm.
very, yeah.
It's also
Oh,
really
okay.
interesting to see US news in the global papers and their
Mm,
perspective of the US. So that's
mm-hmm,
interesting too. And I mean, I think if you're doing anything, which I feel like we all are for business owners, related to like consumers and consumer beliefs and societal habits, we kind of have to understand the narrative that's being fed to us because we are kind of what we eat.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and generally, from what I found is when I get outside the U.S., they understand the U.S. better than the people that you talk to in the United States. It's pretty crazy,
Oftentimes.
They pay
but
attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
it's a good
Mhm.
point.
Let's go
And they
back to
laugh.
CauseLabs, Sheryle. I want to understand, you started there as a project manager, you're now a CEO.
Mhm.
Talk about maybe that transition and like how you changed as a leader. Now you're leading the company. How did you go about that? Did you just jump in? Did you go to trainings and workshops or educate? How did you
Yeah.
take that new role?
So interestingly, I was actually in digital mergers and acquisitions and kind of data rooms prior to joining CauseLabs. Think secure Dropbox for like M&A deals globally.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And this is before Box.net and Dropbox actually existed. And so I kind of fell into a tech space without even realizing what like tech space was. And I ended up rising in the ranks at that company and became VP of operations. And so I had a lot of experience already in managing many clients, many accounts, project management, as well as working on the marketing and website. I mean, it was a small company, so we all wore many, many hats. Again, didn't really know anything about entrepreneurship. I did business classes in college, but they talk about like traditional businesses and traditional structures. And then you get into the business world and there's like nothing traditional or like cookie cutter about it.
Nothing. Exactly. So good. It's-
Everything is just all over the place, being thrown at you from all directions, and it is just crazy. Um, And so I was actually doing really great, making more money than I ever imagined that I would make, and having a title that I never imagined I could have. And um, but I wasn't myself. It was very I don't want to say empty, because I was achieving things and I had goals and I was reaching those, and that felt really good. Um, but I guess it wasn't really aligned with the purpose that maybe I had for myself. Didn't know what that was, but I knew I was searching for something different.
mm,
Um, my husband found CauseLabs on Craigslist because apparently back then that's where recruiters
wow.
posted everything.
Wow. Craigslist.
And I thought it was a total scam. And then I looked up the company and I was like, okay, well, the company's real, but they only have one client. So I don't know if this is legit. And at the time I was managing like 200 accounts. So I was like, one client. I don't know if this is a good idea. And also it was like taking a demotion because it was a project
Mhm.
manager job, not a VP or C-suite job at all. And yet something was calling to me. And they actually got their clients involved in hiring me because I'd be working primarily as the project manager for that specific client. It would be their second client ever. And they were local here to our area in Arlington. And after meeting a client, I was like, I don't know if I can like not accept this position. There are so many reasons why I shouldn't accept this, and yet I can't possibly imagine losing this opportunity. And so the recruiter calls me after like our 8th interview, because I was interviewing them as much as they were interviewing me. And he says, well, I'm not going to like talk you up too much. I'm not going to say like you're a rock star, but we're going to share all your qualities. And I was like, hold up, Mike. You better tell them I'm a rock star. I'm going to kick ass at this, sorry,
Oh,
at
you're
this
good.
role, at this role. And I really want this, like make it happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like my advocating for myself in that way made the difference, but I got the job and, within 3 months I was leading the project management team, and within 2 years I was starting our own marketing department, which we didn't have before because we only had 2 clients.
Yeah.
And then, we grew from 2 clients to like reaching over 100 different clients. And
That's awesome.
it was such a great journey to like, they weren't necessarily a small company. Like they were already, I think y'all are an EO, they were already an EO qualified business. I mean, like one client and they were like,
Mm.
over $1 million in revenue. However, like that's really dangerous, right?
It's
To
very
have all
risky.
of your revenue coming from one client.
Yeah. It's a little risky.
And they recognized that. And so as we grew and evolved as a company, we made some very dramatic changes for that. But one of the best changes was in 2012. The team really leaned into this idea of impact and like living by our values. And everybody on the team was kind of bought into making the world a better place. And, this was kind of a time when the value of social media was starting to get questioned, because now we have, these devices that are always in our pockets and always at our fingertips. And
Mhm.
the way in which we were using social media was starting to change. So it wasn't just this tool that was like connecting us with the world anymore. Now it was this tool that was like begging for our attention, either
Yeah.
to be turned into dollars or just to suck up our time. I don't know. um, but human behavior started to shift. And so we had to really think about what kind of tech company do we want to be? There are a lot of unintended negative consequences, and yet there's like so many valuable benefits
Mhm.
if people have technology available to them. Like it equalizes things, it offers education, it minimizes the cost of accessing resources. And so we really just leaned into that as a team. And I mean, I think that's why we rebranded. We used to be High Def Web, rebranded to CauseLabs. And
Mm.
I was completely bought in, being part of that journey. Like it was already established when I joined the company, but then like we evolved into this other thing, and being a part of that, I think every team member took ownership into it. But given my personal past, I really, really, bought in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I was 100% into it, clearly.
Well,
Um,
you can go so much further when the whole team is bought in. Can I ask
Yeah.
you a question? Just because I know there's other clients we work with that have a similar thing where they have a high or heavy customer concentration, which is risky, right? How did you go from it? How did CauseLabs go from 1 or 2 clients all the way to 100? Because now your business is much more durable and
mhm.
sustainable. Do you remember like how you did that, how you navigated that?
Yeah, and I don't know if the same tactics would work today. As I said, there are certain things that work, but it's market timing, right? So for me to share the specific, advice per se of how we went about doing that in 2010, 2013 is totally different than how you'd probably do it today. And
Yeah.
so I think while some concepts and mindsets are true, like the activities of what we did may not necessarily work if you replicated them today. But I will say, when I got asked to become part of the marketing team, we just started telling a lot of stories. We ended up hiring a PR firm, Keaton PR, which we still occasionally work with them. They're based out of Colorado. Um, and they were like, oh man, we were glued together. They learned so much about our company. They learned so much about our voice. We even questioned like our vocabulary. Like, do we say I? Do we say we? Do we say you? Like, how do we communicate as a company? Like, what is our brand? What is our personality? And we took that into the content that they were helping to write for us. But the benefit of partnering with their team is that they actually used to be journalists.
Mm.
And so they had this network of editors, which now, of course, publications were going online. So, Forbes, Huffington Inc., New York Times, all of these were going online and going digital. But then you also had all of the new ones like Core 77, Fast Company, Mashable, that were industry specific. And so because they had us, in some of those other publications, we were able to expand our reach so quickly. And I think just like brand visibility was important at the time and credibility.
Yeah.
We also didn't have as many competitors. And I think our mindset to that also helped. One, we knew there was more work out there than any one of our companies could do alone. So we viewed them as collaborators, not competitors. And so having agency partnerships were actually really useful because, we had special expertise and we may not do certain things that like our other partners might do. And so it was a very
Yeah.
friendly effort, friendly competition.
Okay. Yeah.
But now we've got, competitors from all over the world. So again, society's
Hmm.
shifting and changing. You've got, outsourced companies from everywhere, and it's a lot cheaper to do business outside of the US than it is inside the US.
Mm.
And it's really hard to compete with, if you have certain rules, which for us, we were working from anywhere, but the majority of our team were employees and they were, W-2 salaried employees on our team and within the United States. So, our work was going to be more expensive because we want to have a living wage and,
Yeah.
fair benefits and things like that. And so, at a point where companies started outsourcing, it became really hard to compete on price. And so we really had to establish, our values, our personality, and the impact of what we were doing. So it made sense to lean into becoming a public benefit corporation.
Interesting.
Can I just a quick comment or quick question. I understand that issue you just talked about as you're competing and you're competing on a global scale now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the United States used to be 62% of the global GDP. Now it's only 26% roughly. So it's like things are shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Who pays for your service when you go work with a nonprofit? Do they pay you directly, or is there like a philanthropist or somebody else linked up that's doing it?
So we've done it both ways. The majority of them, it comes from the nonprofit or corporations marketing budget or web management budget. A lot of
Okay.
them, just have a subcontractor budget, and so they don't have an in-house tech team, and so we fall kind of under in that bucket. But we have gone to this poverty alleviation conference that we've been going to since probably 2010, 2009. I mean, pretty early on when it was still beginning. And there, they actually convene social enterprises, nonprofits, funders, and service providers. And so when kind of the stars aligned, you would be at the table with the funder as well. And, they could hear like why it costs a certain amount, what's viable, what's not viable, and we could really tailor how to be good stewards of funding. And I think that's one of our differentiators, because we've put ourselves in those kind of spaces to be able to have those transparent conversations. And I think it, just carried a lot of trust for our brand. And so when people talk about our brand, that's something that comes with it, which I feel very fortunate that everybody on the team was kind of bought into that. We all spoke the same language, and even, our PR team that we were working with, like, understood that and understood who we were and how we communicate.
Important.
Brand credibility.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Can you talk about the impact first prioritization method that you use?
Where? Because we've
Well,
got a few metrics that we've put together for that.
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was just, well, no, you go. Go ahead, Andrew. I got a
No, I
question
was going to
after this.
say, maybe just what is it? How do you use it?
So because we're a public benefit corporation, we have to do an audit every 3 years. It used to be every 2 years with B Lab, and they're the ones that certify B corporations. And so we were a certified B Corp first before we became a public benefit corporation. Initially, we were bought into that certification and that model just because, well, one, we wanted to see how we measured up. We believed that we were already a great company and that we could qualify for that. And we did. We actually applied pretty early on, before there were even 1,000 companies as part of it. And you have to score an 80 out of 200 points. And it seems like that would be easy.
Yeah, seems like it. Yeah.
It is so freaking hard. The questions that they ask, the accountability that you have to have, the documentation, the processes, the transparency that needs to be in place to get to 80 is actually very difficult for a company that's just kind of talking the talk. Like, you also have to walk the walk. We got an 82 when we first applied. That's so rare to get it on the first time. But we did believe that we were already doing a lot of great things. Over time, our score has grown. I think we're at 106 or 113 or something like that now. I think that for us, we recognize that we can improve what we don't measure. There were a lot of things that we believed in, but we weren't measuring them. And so when it came time to make a decision, we didn't necessarily take that into account. So one good example is, one year we took an impact challenge and said, we're going to identify, how many women-owned businesses we partner with and work with. Obviously, this is something we care about. We're a women-owned business. It was 3%.
Wow.
Like, dismally low. And we looked at every supplier. I mean, so we had to we buy paper at Staples. Like, we looked at Staples. Like, we evaluated every company that we do business with. And so we're like, okay, well, we're going to change this. We're going to make a difference in this measurement. So we were able to make strategic decisions when we were doing certain things to say, all right, well, we're going to buy t-shirts for the team. Here are some initiatives we're trying to target, environmentally friendly, women-owned business, local business, and if those are the things we were targeting, then we would actually score things based on that. So operationally, every decision that we made aligned with our values and the initiatives that we were taking on as a company, because we said we cared about them. And so we wanted to make sure that we were making decisions based on that. And my husband, who's a co-owner in the business, Michael, always says, we need to vote with our dollars. And that extends into everything, even like choosing which bank we're going to put our money into, because it doesn't sit in the bank. Like, they're investing in the community somehow, and you care about the things that they're investing in. So
that's a really good point. It's like they say, besides money, when you look at your calendar, it's like, Look at your calendar. That'll tell you your priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of thing with money. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, if you're a CEO out there who's struggling with focus for your company, aligning your team, accountability, if you're struggling with execution, connecting the dots from where you're at to where you want to be, we've got a great program for you here at MAP. My name is Michael Cato. I'm the CEO. Most importantly, I was a client for 15 years, sold my company to a public company, and then bought MAP so that we can help other entrepreneurs with this specific problem. We're a 60-year-old company. We've worked with 170,000 individual executives and CEOs. We've worked with 15,000 organizations. This is what we do. Click the link below to learn a little bit more about how people just like you, CEOs, have transformed their business and ultimately transformed their life by running through the MAP system.
So people, yeah, I think that's like you vote with your feet, right? People vote with their feet, so it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, vote with your dollars.
Yep. Andrew, Cheryl does this, like, you do a morning kind of prioritization thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's that one? Because I think people are always looking for simple, like, things that can get them off to the right, start in the morning.
So, were you reading one of our blogs on that? Is that what it was?
I may have.
Yeah.
I may have.
So, I've written so many blogs about how I prioritize my day. And I mean, it's changed over time. So I don't know which one you've read. But just like everything, my tools have evolved, my practices have evolved. One of the things that I started doing a long time ago is that I only check my email 3 times a day. That way it's not kind of up and disrupting me. And most things that come through email are not an emergency.
True.
And so if I've given, our clients, our team, mechanisms for reaching me when it is an emergency, then email doesn't have to ever be that thing, and so I'm not constantly interrupted by that. I do triage my email in the morning, and
Yep.
and then I also, you mentioned just a moment ago, if you look at your calendar, you can see what's important to you, because those are the things that are going to be listed on your calendar, right? I started putting everything on my calendar. I had a team member, Rachel, and she had come from Apple and then ended up, working at Google after working at CauseLabs. And she was a project manager, and I learned so much from her. Even as like her supervisor, there were a lot of things that she did that I actually picked up and learned some great habits from. And one of them is like everything goes on the calendar, even like a break time or I had 15 minutes on my calendar before I jumped on this podcast, because I was like, I need to quiet my mind. I need to, make sure that I'm prepared for this and that I'm not just jumping on and winging it.
Yeah. Jumping in cold. Yeah. I think I've just interviewed somebody on the podcast last Friday, and he was saying he's maniacal about his calendar with like things they want to get done. He's like, oh, cool, you're going to get this project done. When? Friday? Okay, when Friday? At 2:00? Great, put it on the calendar. From 1 to 2:00, you're getting that project done. And so he just blocks out all the different things that he and the team are going to do. I thought that was interesting. It's may not work for everybody, but is an interesting approach.
Well, it's also interesting from a self-evaluation perspective. I started to notice how much I could handle, like whether or not I could handle 5 sales calls in one day, or
Right.
because of I'm not selling a cookie cutter product, I'm not selling something that's the same every single time. The investment of mental capacity and the relational capacity that I kind of needed to put into each call, 5 was not viable for me, because I was connecting in a different way and I was using different parts of my brain. And so, I started to recognize what I could handle, what was healthy, and make those changes as well.
Yeah. So, Cheryl, you're an EO. Mike's an EO. A lot of companies in EO will use an existing framework or operating system like MAP or EOS that helps them to scale. Do you use anything like that at CauseLabs?
So we've used a few different things and then ended up with a version that really pulls pieces from different places, right?
Okay.
And so because we are kind of a dev team first, we definitely leaned into Scrum and Agile development and all of the things that go with that. So a lot of our processes are related to that. And then when we've got these larger projects, we try to lean into test-driven development. And so some of the things that we do are very tech specific. As far as an entrepreneurial system, we did try to do EOS. I say try because we tried to self-implement. Because we were looking at the price tag of having an implementer and we were like, ooh, that's really expensive. And so in hindsight, highly recommend having an outside implementer.
Yeah.
We are way too close to our problems to actually successfully do that ourselves. I won't say we completely flopped. We carried a lot of those habits forward, like the level 10 meetings. But we're just a small team, and so, yes.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. We have this code word, Andrew and I, when I want to ask a question, I go like this, because otherwise he's play by play, I'm color commentary sometimes, but sometimes we get our roles reversed. No. Finish what you were saying. And I had a question.
Oh, okay. And then when we joined EO, they actually asked me to join Accelerator first and then recognized that, we qualify as a member. But I realized that Accelerator was very different from EO. With EO, I get the forum and the experience sharing of the 5%. But with Accelerator, I get a lot of this tactical training. And I was like, I could use some of that tactical training because I'm a new business owner. So even though my company, I'd been with them for a really long time, we had already scaled beyond $1 million in revenue. $1 million in revenue doesn't necessarily always mean like high profits. So when I took over as CEO of the company, I actually ended up being like a turnaround CEO. And so we were kind of in a touchy place. And, I leaned on our brand and our partnerships and our relationship with our clients to really turn us around and get us out of that. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I just was using, I don't know, instinct.
Yeah, that's what we all do.
And so I felt like that tactical training was really important. And then, of course, I read Scaling Up and saw Vern Harnish speak. And I've seen other people that EO has brought out, and I've taken a lot from our learning events. And I've grown personally too, which I feel like I didn't seek to grow personally. I was seeking to understand business better and grow my business and be in a network for my business. But I realized the more I grew as a person, the better my business was. Even if it wasn't necessarily growing, even let's take COVID years, the pandemic, there are a lot of businesses that were not growing, a lot of businesses that were struggling really hard. But I think because I was a stronger leader by that point, I was able to weather that and recognize that this is a season, it's gonna pass. And as long as we were strong enough as a business and strong enough as a team and strong enough as leaders to weather that storm, we came out on the other side better for it.
Yeah. Well, it's like you went to Accelerator, and you know how you see that they had that one slide about the valleys of death. And that's, I'm glad you're in Accelerator. I train accelerators in Orange County. And so, I love that slide because, it shows you if you put a system in place, especially with a coach that can help you, you can shrink those valleys of death.
Yeah. We allow all of our members to go to accelerator programs. And so it's not, it's for our accelerator members, but if our members want to go, which I value so much because there are times when I just need refreshers on that.
Totally.
Reinforcement is super important.
Yeah. And we see things different ways when we're in different points of our business. All of a sudden that tool's in front of us and I'm like, that's always been there, but now it clicks.
Yeah.
Totally. We had a similar experience. We had an online food delivery business, our first company, and we used MAP, who we work with. as our consulting a company that came and put a system in our business. But when I went to this MAP workshop that still goes on, 25, 30 executives every month, I walked out of there and I was like, oh, so this is what it means to not fly by the seat of your pants. This is what it means to like have a plan, to communicate properly, to have structure. But I knew that I wasn't going to be able to implement it. I knew at that point. And so I brought a coach in, and for 15 years, we had a coach working with our executive team. But more than a coach, he was a former CEO. He'd been there, done that for 15 years, helping us build our company. But that put the system and the accountability in place to allow us to grow. So I get right what you're talking about. But I was looking through some stuff, and you said I know you run an L10, but I saw something that said you review vital factors. Did you use that word?
I don't. No.
Okay, then maybe it's my ChatGPT that is starting to become biased towards me and doesn't call them KPIs anymore. So
that's probably true.
Vital factors.
Yeah, that's a term we use at MAP because we say, hey, every organization has 100 KPIs or more. Okay, so if you get in a meeting with your executive team every single month to look at 100 KPIs, it goes nowhere. But if you say, let's look at the 20% that drive the 80% of the results, the Pareto principle, and you define those at the executive level, you design them in sales, marketing, finance, then you can focus on the right things at every level in every department of the business. So
yeah, having the dashboard that we could just glance at and we know what those mean. And they actually, we try not to. I don't want to say we don't ever, but we try not to put anything on a dashboard that has no purpose in making decisions. And so the things we put on dashboards are things that
it's good.
If the number changes, we have to make a decision.
Yep.
And so those are the things we try to measure.
That's smart.
That's a really good way to say that, by the way. I'm going to write that one down.
Leading or lagging. Well, you mentioned that you're developer heavy. I've run tech business before, so I know sometimes that can be challenged with developers with accountability. At least the developers that we had, we try to hold them to goals, we try to hold them to dates, and they always have some excuse. Oh, well, I can just move this, or I could do this. So it was always a challenge. How do you do it? What accountability system do you use with your team?
It's really interesting. So, one, I feel like we've gotten lucky. And I think back to the developers that we've had, and we've been, really fortunate in having some really great senior devs that not only get it and are aligned on the process, but excited to learn and try new things. And so when, mobile apps came out and there was an app for that, nobody really knew how to code for these devices, right? And they didn't know that it was going to the devices were going to change all the time and that there were going to be these OS updates. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But we had team members and contractors that were like, yeah, we'll figure that out with you. And so as a tech company, to kind of live for 20 plus years, which, we're about to hit 23 years. If you're not evolving, then you're dead. Tech is moving so fast. And I think, the dev team has kind of led that, as a project manager, as a marketing person, as a salesperson, even as wearing my design hat, I cannot drive where technology is going. It was our tech team that actually said, hey, there's this new open source framework. We should really start exploring Laravel. Or, hey, we should really start looking at React. So that wasn't client driven, and that wasn't, top down. That was actually from our tech team, really interested in some of the new frameworks and new languages, and bringing that to the table and saying, this is going to be a better system for our clients when we build custom software.
And I think you did luck out with developers that are, it's like a growth mindset, right? Having an open growth mindset and willing to adapt. That's awesome.
We also had to recognize that they were developers.
Yeah.
And that means like they are not designers. If you show a drop down, you need to very explicitly say, what's the what's the action you want this to take, and what's in the drop down list, and how many, like very detailed on that. And then also one thing that we learned is like, we have really optimistic developers. They're like, oh yeah, I can finish that in a day. And we're like, multiply that times 20%.
It always takes longer. Always. Twice or 3 times as long. Well, looking ahead to the next 1 to 3 years, what are like the big goals that you have for CauseLabs, and what do you think might get in the way?
Gosh, that's such a hard question, because we are in tech. I am not all in with saying that, we should become an AI development team and clients should all build their own AI. It seems like that would be like the next direction for a tech company like ours. However, we try to be good stewards of the dollars, and I think the big tech companies are already rolling all of this into tools that we already use. And I think that if people are building their own custom AIs, to a certain extent, some will need to do some R&D and build their own, but I think the majority of people don't need that. I don't necessarily think that's the direction that an agency like ours is headed into. And so I will say we're still trying to figure that out, because we're paying attention to human behaviors right now. And we're paying attention to what companies like Google are doing. Like if it's AI first responses that you're getting when you search, how does that change how we think about search and where we find our content and how we connect with one another? It's kind of like how social media changed when all of a sudden we had it in our pocket and at our fingertips all the time. The web is changing. We're still going to be a tech company that uses tech for good. We just don't know exactly what that looks like yet. And I know you're just asking for 3 years, but that's how quickly it's changing right now.
I know.
We can't even predict.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
It is moving quick.
Yeah, it is.
I do see whenever I do a query on Google, it's always AI first. It's always, they're feeding you the data. You don't have to click on anything anymore. It'll be interesting to see how search evolves and how browsing habits evolve for the next 6 to 12 months. It's very interesting.
I mean, exactly. It's like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, you go ahead. I'm good.
I was going to say, looking internally at CauseLabs, you guys have grown so much. I'm sure you've had to shift and change things. What are you working on now? Are there, things that you have to optimize internally for like the next phase of growth within the company?
I will say for a while, we tried really hard to identify like what we wanted as far as the future of our company. And, initially we thought, well, the easiest way to go is to become a products company. This is a little bit more repeatable processes, a little bit easier with recurring revenue. And so we started to create productized services. As owners, Michael and I bring very different things to the company. And I will say that now that we've gotten to a point where some of our productized services are established, we're like, well, no, maybe it's a different company. And maybe that's just the entrepreneurial side of us of like, everything looks like a business now. But we're really recognizing that there's still a lot of strength, especially in I don't want to say that it can't really be replicated, because AI is definitely being strategic and thoughtful and doing a lot of research. But I think there's some things in that digital strategy and consulting side that probably aren't going to be replaced by AI right away. And that still requires some high touch components to it.
Yeah.
And so that's something where, as I mentioned earlier, we have some brand credibility and trust and transparency around. And so maybe we're uniquely positioned to continue that piece of things, even as technology changes. If we can't define exactly what we're building, because the world is changing so quickly, we at least know that we've got strengths in, digital strategy and innovation to help guide people along on that journey.
Mm.
You said a couple things that are so this is the part of entrepreneurship that's so fun, because you have distinctive capabilities within a certain niche. And the question becomes then, like, while you're sitting around and you're on a beach, or you're taking you're in the shower, and you're like, where else could we deploy, leverage everything where are the high leverage points, as Andrew would like to say, within who we are, what we do, what we stand for, and the clients we work with? Is there something else? But you also reminded me of something that Jeff Bezos likes to say. He goes, the world moves really quickly. He goes, so for me to predict the future and what's going to change is impossible. So he focused his team on what won't change.
Mm-hmm.
And in his world, he says, what won't change? Well, there will always be customers looking for products at the lowest possible price. He goes, that's not going to change. So we're going to lean into that. And I think it's important for all of us to think that ask us that question in our business. What is it that we do based on our capabilities that isn't going to change? And I'd hate to be a lawyer right now, or some of these other spaces where everything's changing. But anyways.
No, that's a great point, Mike. I like that. I like that
I like
framing
that.
a lot. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's really good. One more question for you, Sheryle. So we always ask folks, is there something unique or different that you do or your team does internally at CauseLabs that somebody listening might be able to take back and adopt into their business?
Yeah, a few things. It depends on which direction you want to lean into. So as far as one of our processes, we do have a guide to digital innovation, and we've got the steps actually on our website for free that people could actually take away and start doing some of those exercises. We do those strategy workshops and we facilitate it. And there's something just like an EOS implementer of having an outsider kind of come in that's not too close to the problem, that can like take you to different levels. But people can certainly do that within their team and create a culture of that within their teams. And I think that's going to be really necessary right now for every business, because this tech change is not just changing tech businesses, it's changing all businesses. Like, this is kind of
Yes.
a monumental point in history right now. And it's really interesting to be owning a business at this time, and like no one really knowing, like everybody assuming what's going to happen, but we really just don't know where it's going because it's changing almost daily right now. And so we've got that tool on our website to kind of guide that thinking. Additionally, one of our partners is IDEO.org. We help them with designkit.org, and all of the methods and mindsets for human-centered design are there. They also, I think it's through Acumen, that they offer a free design thinking, human-centered design workshop. And then also now they have human-centered design with AI. And so we've created for a while now, even before agentic AI and generative AI was out. We had several AI tools that we were using to kind of do our workshops digitally, which was really helpful when COVID hit and everything was virtual. But it also helped us kind of reach different regions, right? So now all of our team members are in Texas, but we have clients all over the US, but really all over the world. And so being able to do a workshop with them virtually means we had to cobble together and work with all of these tools. Now there are tools that are kind of easier to build because of AI to do this human-centered design. So that resource is out there on our website and also on IDEO.org's website. And then we've got, a few things for, like, if you care about environmental action, because we're a B Corp, we put a template out there on like how you can calculate your company's footprint and take action on those things. So, if you can't measure, you can't improve what you don't measure, then start measuring it. So we've got some tools for that. We've got one for, how we identify the right clients to work with. And so we've got kind of I don't want to say it's an audit, but, it's a criteria, is this client ready, willing, and able? Are you talking to the right person? Do they know what they want? Is this aligned with our skill set? what is the funding structure for this? But then also going down to is this a foundation? Is this a nonprofit or charity? What sector are they actually impacting? Which of the sustainable development goals are going to be changed with the outcomes of this project? And some of the impact related things that we like to measure as well. So we've got a rubric on our website for that.
No, that's great. And Mike, that's very the pipeline stuff we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We just talking about this today.
In this morning. Yeah.
That's right. Sheryle, this has been great.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing the time with us.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, where can folks go to learn more about CauseLabs or connect with you?
They can find us on CauseLabs.com. That's CAUSE, just like great cause, and labs is LABS. And then on all of the socials, it's at CauseLabs, including YouTube at CauseLabs. As far as reaching out to me, I do have my personal website, which is SherylGillihan.com, and that's where I've dabbled with some AIs that people can actually test and try for free. And I do some individual consulting and speaking on using tech for good and impact technology.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. This has been awesome. Really appreciate your time. And I thought a lot of awesome content for the audience. Thank you so much for being here. Kato.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sheryle.
Thanks,
Thanks
Kato.
everyone for joining.
Thanks,
we'll see
Andrew.
you next time.
Yeah. Stay focused, everyone.